Okay, Jeremy Linn, welcome to the podcast, man. How you doing?
Doing great. How about you, Brett?
I'm great, man. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely.
Now, where are you coming from?
I'm in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, out some west of town. And I've been coaching with Nation's Capital Swim Club for the last 15 years. And for those that don't know much about our club, we have 2,000 kids on the club, and it spans the whole greater D.C. area. So we have everything from Germantown, Maryland, all the way out to where I'm at in outside of Manassas. I'm in Warrenton, Virginia, so it's west of DC, and we have 11 different sites around the town. And I run what is called NCAP West, so I'm the head coach of that. We run out of 3 different pools, 280 kids, 14 coaches on staff. So it's like a team of its own inside that team. So there's a lot of work and a lot of fun to be had doing it.
Yeah, man, it's a true powerhouse. But listen, everybody I speak to about you who've been coached by you or know you just love you, man. You do a great job. Like your athletes seem to really buy into what you're doing, and you just seem to be a caring, passionate coach. And I think that transcends, that they connect to that. So do you notice that about yourself?
Sure. Hey, Brett, now you were an elite athlete as well. When I was retiring from the sport of the swimming as an athlete and moving forward with my life, I wanted to find some real meaning in what the opportunity that I had to be a part of this sport was. And I kind of came up with the fact that, all the values that I learned that helped me carry myself in the way I carry myself through life. Everything from, being honest with yourself about 100% effort to being on time, so I came up with this list of, really important values that the sport of swimming gave to me, or the experiences through the sport of swimming gave to me. And I kind of made them the cornerstone of our program. I was really lucky when I joined Nation's Capital Swim Club, which was previously Curlburg at the time. I got to start this site. So I got to start it from ground zero. And we made that value system the cornerstone of everything we do, from how the staff relates with the parents to how the kids interact with the challenges on a day-to-day basis, inside and outside of the pool. It became the most important thing. And I think when you help foster kids making great choices and being good people, the sport of swimming just becomes a lot of fun. And we do, that's where my knowledge base lies for life, kind of how I teach my lessons for life is in the sport of swimming. So, teaching the whole person is a really big deal to us. And what we find is, a happy, healthy person is going to compete at a high level. Yeah. So it's really been a lot of fun. My goal has always been, how can I impact positively the most amount of people possible? And that's how I found myself swim coaching, because I could do positive things in other walks of life, but it just seemed to be where my knowledge base lied the most, where I could really give back the most. So that's really why I started with the sport of swimming on the other end of it, not being an athlete, but being a coach. And believe it or not, this year marks the year that I've been a coach longer than I was a swimmer. So
oh, wow.
Now I'm a coach, a life coach, and not a life swimmer. So it's pretty cool.
There you go. That's awesome, man. I love that. And I love the fact that you said you came up with a list. One of the best recommendations I got from the time that I was leaving swimming as an athlete to going into coaching was I got some advice to say, hey, come up with some lists, like you said, to what do you believe in? What do you value? What do you know works? What do you think doesn't work? What are sets that you love? Just the whole aspect of like evaluating your career as an athlete and then putting that into what type of coach you want to be. And that was some great advice that I got, was coming up with these lists. And that's the same advice that I give young coaches these days. They're always asking me for advice. I'm like, come up with your list, like what do you stand for? What do you believe in? How do you want to, what type of practices do you want to write? How do you want to write practices? All that is a matter of just introspection and kind of figuring it out for yourself. There's no manual that you can hand somebody and say, here, just do this and you're going to be a great coach. It's got to come from within, right?
Yeah. And I feel like you'll also have to have the willingness to allow yourself to evolve, especially for a young coach. I remember when I started coaching, I went around because of when I was a swimmer, I knew all the greatest coaches in the world. So I went around to all of them. I said, what I got to do to be the greatest coach in the world? They're like, grow up, get married, have kids, like take some time, young man. And I, instead of, I knew I had the knowledge base. But what I had to do was learn through the process and be willing to be pliable to the changes that are going to happen on a year-to-year basis, based on the athletes that are going to be a part of the program, or based on the challenges that a worldwide pandemic provides you. Whatever it is, you have to be pliable to that and willing to kind of bend your stiff way. This is the way it has to be. And I think that that's a really important thing to understand, and something that I've grown into in the past probably 10 years is, I told my swimmers when I was a younger coach, it must be this way. You have to do this way, or you're not going to be successful. And I've learned to, instead of tell them what they have to do, to empower them to make choices, and good choices for themselves. So, educate them on what their choices might mean, as far as, what comes of that choice, but allow them to make their own choices. And I think it goes hand in hand with having that great value system. If they're good people and they're making good choices for themselves like that, when you empower them to make those choices, then when they move forward into a college program or into a national team or whatever it is, they're empowered with that ability to make great choices for themselves and do the right thing.
I love it, man. Let's reflect on Jeremy Linn, the athlete, for a second then, before we dig into a little bit more coaching. So how did you know you were a breaststroker?
I didn't. I wasn't legal in breaststroke till I was 14.
What were you doing?
It was one of my favorite stories to tell kids is, don't pigeonhole yourself into I'm this.
Yep.
Be open to anything, and certainly even our best athletes, we're asking them to do new stuff and try new things because it's fun to learn and grow and progress. So we don't want people to just kind of pigeonhole or stay stagnant in a certain thing. For me, breaststroke became a choice because my older brother, 5 years older than me, was a breaststroker. Was a fairly elite breaststroker. He had headed out to UVA to swim for Mark Bernardino, and he's an NCAA qualifier. I wanted to be like my big brother. So he did breaststroke. I just decided, and it was a lot like, and I correlated to, anything you want to do. I didn't set my goal. I wanted to be an Olympic breaststroker. My goal is I want to do breaststroke legally to start. It just happened to be the kind of work ethic that I had, and the ability to set goals as I move forward, and kind of think of like goals as you were climbing a ladder, And each day I just wanted to grab a rung of that ladder. And the first stage just so happened, you better get legal in the stroke. So, and each day I just tried to get that day's goal and get a little better and a little better. So focusing on being in the moment and trying to achieve what your goal is right now, such a big deal to do anything. So breaststroke became something that I really wanted to do and apply my goal setting, formula for when I was about 14. And by the time I was 16, I was the fastest guy in the state. And then by the time I was 18, I was the fastest high schooler in the country. So it just kind of progressed on that kind of basis. Being competitive was always there.
Yeah.
And that's something, I was very competitive in freestyle and backstroke. I was a good IMer, but I would get DQ'd because I couldn't do breaststroke legally.
Where'd you grow up?
I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I swam for a small team in Harrisburg, PA. It was the Harrisburg East Shore YMCA. When I started, it was the Harrisburg Swim Club. It was out of an inner city middle school, real small team. Coach Ed Fraser was our coach, and it evolved into the Harrisburg East Shore Y, and then later into Central Pennsylvania Aquatic Club. It no longer exists. three Olympians came from there, all breaststrokers. So
Oh, wow.
Anita Nall originally swam for us until she was 12 years old when her family moved to Baltimore and they started swimming with NBAC. And she made the games when she was 16. And then came me 4 years later. So she was 92. I went in 96. And then 4 years later, somebody that I trained with, Kristy Kowal, also made the team. So,
awesome.
And they say, something in the water in central Pennsylvania. You got Brendan Hansen that comes from there, just Michael Norment. You got always some great breaststroke history from central Pennsylvania.
Some studs. I love it. So why didn't you end up following your brother to UVA? Well, how'd you end up at Tennessee?
When I went to the University of Tennessee, Coach John Trembly was the head coach. And when I was a little kid, we always went to Mercersburg Academy, where John Trembly was the head coach when I was a little kid.
Right.
So I knew him from the swim camps that he ran there, which were at the time probably one of the most prolific swim camps in the country. So he's really well known for that. And I kind of got to know him a little bit, and my coach got to know him real well. So when it came time to choose where I was going to, be a collegiate swimmer, I had a nice list of primarily ACC and SEC schools. But the connection that I had with Coach Trembly and the connection to University of Tennessee, because of that, just seemed to be a great fit. So, and interestingly, I have a great message for those student athletes that aspire to be college swimmers. Not neglecting the academic side of what you do and making swimming the most important thing is such a big deal. When I was a junior in high school, I was carrying a 1.1 GPA. Not because I wasn't capable, because I just didn't find the importance in it. I didn't really like the process of it. But it kind of was like, imagine if you're going to swim practice every day, Brett, and you're not really trying your hardest. And you're really giving your heart to it. You're not committed to the 100% effort. It isn't very fun. You don't really have a reason to be there. Your goals aren't clear. So it's not that fun of a process. And then you start skipping practices, and all of a sudden it's not something you're doing on a regular basis anymore. And you may end up being out of the sport. Well, that's kind of where I found myself in academics. And my number one goal, and I knew I wanted, at that point, when Anita made the Olympics in 96, I was a 16-year-old boy. And I was like, I'm doing that too. And what happened was I realized, in my mind at 16, only superheroes made the Olympic team. And that's really easy to fall into. These people are superhuman. They're not normal. They were never normal people. They were always Olympians. And that's, it's impossible for me to do. When one of my friends became an Olympian, I realized these are just regular people that decided to own the commitment to the work and the challenge of being it. For me, it was like, I want to be one of those people, and I'm going to earn that. But I had to move on to collegiate swimming in order to do that, because that's kind of where the next step in the process was, coming out of club swimming, at least at that point.
I was going to say that. When did becoming an Olympian become realistic? It was when you went to Tennessee?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I had to take that 1.1, and they told me, well, you're going to have to get a 4.0 if you're going to get into any of the schools you want to go to senior year. So I committed myself to the same goal setting process I would do for swimming. Bring your pencil to school. Start at the beginning and worked my way up that goal ladder. And I got a 4.0 my senior year, which put me in a position to be able to go on to college athletics and academics. And believe it or not, I found myself really liking the process.
Yeah.
Because I was engaged and committed to a goal and working hard at it. Yeah. And then I ended up getting a 3.5 in for my GPA in college and getting a degree in
awesome.
That process. So just learning the commitment to the goal setting process through the sport of swimming and applying it to the rest of my life. It was an amazing lesson. Like, holy cow, look what I can do. But, as your question, when did the Olympic idea start to be less of an idea, more of a reality.
Yeah.
You know, it was great to get an opportunity to train and race my freshman year, which was the year before the 96 Olympics. And
yeah,
they'll get second at NCAAs in the 100 breaststroke to Kurt Grote. You know, and
Stanford.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
he was a senior that year, so it was the only year I raced him. And then make the national team that summer. I made the Pan Pacific Games, and I really at that point didn't even know what that meant. I didn't know the process for making national team. I went to U.S. Nationals in the summer. I think it was like in Pasadena or something like that, and I got second in the 100 breast, and I'm walking down the deck, and after the race is over, and who ended up being my Olympic team captain, John Olsen, comes up to me and he goes, "What a swim, dude. I can't believe it. You made the national team. Are you excited? You going to go?" And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to go. You know, Grateful Dead's got a tour going on. I think I might go catch them for the rest of the summer. And he stopped for a second. He's like, "I love the Dead too, guy. You kind of don't pass up making the national team. You got to go." And I was like, I took that to heart, which was good. Because I had the experience of getting to go swim with the national team, Pan Pacific Games in Atlanta at the Olympic pool. And that's when everything started to really become a reality that this was a possibility for me. I'd made the national team. I'd achieved what it would take the next year at Olympic trials, you know, first or second place in your given event. In order to make the team, I had achieved that the year before. So it started becoming really close to home that this was a possibility for me.
Nice. I love this. I love the story, man, that it happened kind of naturally and organically, you know, but it happened. And there was certainly a point where you figured it out. But I mean, there's a big leap from maybe making the US national team to then becoming an Olympic medalist, you know, silver medal in the 100 breast, correct? And then gold in the relay. So when did becoming a medalist become a reality?
Yeah. So making the Olympic team was pretty fun too. You know, and it's
pretty cutthroat, right? To make the US Olympic team.
Sure. And what do you say, Brett? What is the percentage of best times at the Olympic trials?
Olympic trials, I'd say probably somewhere between 20 to 25%.
25% of the athletes that compete in the entire Olympic trial games, over 1,600 athletes, probably at that time more like 1,100 athletes.
Yeah.
Go best time.
Yeah.
I qualified for finals and I was in lane 2. This was at Indianapolis, and you know, when you walk in that venue and you see the names on the wall, at that point it was the names on the wall from the 92 team, and they had just stenciled on the wall 1996 Olympic team, and the list was blank. I remember walking in that venue and just staring at the wall and imagining them, you know, painting my name up on that wall and being the guy that got the opportunity to make that list.
Oh, dude, you give me chills, man.
Yeah. So putting yourself in the finals in lane 2, I'm seated 6th going into finals, but I got a shot. Most people seated 6th going into finals at Olympic trials are like, well, I made the heat, and that's good enough.
Who's the competition?
Current American record holder Seth Van Eerden. You got Kurt Grote, Todd Torres. You know, some big time names. I mean, I'm looking around and it's like a who's who of who I was looking up to in the last 3 years, and I'm part of the heat. And I had the opportunity to race a couple of the guys in season, and you know, they're older guys. I'm a younger guy. Sometimes that's in favor of the younger guy. So I had some good races against them, and I kind of knew that, you know, they knew I was a little bit of a wild card. The fun part about the race wasn't as fun at the moment. It's fun to tell as a story now. There's a clock malfunction at the finish of the race. I swam a race and I knew I did great. I was pretty sure I finished first or second when it ended. And I looked up at the clock and it wasn't first, and it wasn't second. It wasn't third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh. At the bottom, it said Jeremy Linn did not swim. One thing, I swam this race. It didn't say DQ, so thank God for that.
Yeah.
But, you know, and so number 1 and number 2, and I think it was Eric Wunderlich and and Kurt Grote were listed as number 1 and number 2. So back then, the guys are, you know, they get out of the pool and their coaches are nearby and they're all celebrating. And I'm kind of sitting on the side of the pool, like, what just happened there? And you hear an announcement say, you know, don't, the board's not official. You know, there's been a clock malfunction. Give us a second. Board goes blank. So about 5 minutes go by, and you know they're getting interviewed by NBC. All those things are happening. I'm like, geez, I'm watching my coaches just go bananas, talking to the officials over there, like, what's going on? And finally, you know, they said scoreboard's official. It comes back on, and I start at the bottom this time. Like, okay, we're gonna work our way up. One there, and there it was. I had won Olympic trials. I was first place, and it went. You remember that goal ladder we were talking about? That was the goal of the day, make the Olympic team. And I had grabbed that top rung of the ladder. It was the highest rung on the ladder, and I was swinging from it.
It's massive.
And it's amazing because you asked, when did I realize I was going to be a medalist? Well, here's what happens when you get to the top rung of a ladder. When goal setting and riding that goal, walking up that ladder on a daily basis is your process. It's like a fireman's ladder. It extends up. There's more goals, you know. Now I want to be an Olympic medalist. I want to make finals, and I want to get one of those medals at the Olympics. I had dropped about a second to tie the American record, which was at the time like I think it was 101.3. So I tied Seth Van Eerden's American record to make the Olympic team, and I wanted to get better. I knew I was going to have to do better than that in order to medal at the games.
Yeah.
And you go into the Olympic Games, and the cool thing was camp was at University of Tennessee for Atlanta. My first 2 international trips, I got to get a passport for these trips, was getting on a bus and traveling 2 hours to Atlanta, Georgia from Knoxville. Those were my first 2 international swimmer trips, you know.
Oh, dang.
Wasn't, you know,
no stamp for that.
Yeah. And I, you know, later on I got to go to Australia and Japan, and the travel, and I'm sure we'll get into that, is a really special part of getting this opportunity.
Yeah.
But you know, the camp was at University of Tennessee, so I was really in a good spot where you know, I had 1 race to get ready for, you know, hopefully 2 with the relay at that point was my thought process. And so I'm getting ready for the 100 breast, and I really zeroed in where the rest of my career I was always thinking about, you know, when I was younger, 5 to 8 races, and then in college 3 in the relays, you know, so it was busy. This was preparing for prelims, finals, 1 race, and you really zero in on that preparation. And I improved enough to swim in the second to last heat in prelims in the United States, 16,000 fans in the stands. For anybody listening to that, I'm going to say it one more time, 16,000 people cheering for a swim meet. In the Olympic trials these days, it's a lot like that, but there was nothing like that at the time. You know, 16,000 people. It's like you're a rock and roll star in your own country.
Was that okay for you? Did you handle that well?
I was the kind of guy that liked to put on a show.
Yeah.
I liked everybody looking at me. When I heard it, I was like, little more. It just gave me energy and fed. I really focused on staying calm and taking all the energy that was being provided to me by my mind and my body and my surroundings and focusing it into the moment. So it was just more energy coming to me. So it was really good. And it was an exciting time. So I swam the prelims, and I dropped some time. I think I went like, you know, 101.1, which means I broke the American record. And I put my hands up, and the crowd, I'm strutting. I walk off to the warm down pool, and the last heat goes up, and you know, 2 minutes later, you hear this crowd go, and I knew there was no Americans in there. Crowd goes even crazier. And there isn't the TVs like there is these days everywhere. So you're like, what just happened? Like, oh, that dude just broke the world record and went, you know, 009. So he had beat me by a half a second.
Dang, who was that?
Fred de Bergeva, a guy from Belgium.
Belgium.
Shaved his head, didn't wear goggles. I was like, this guy, okay. And I didn't know much about him. He didn't know much about me. We're still friends today from this race.
Oh, that's cool.
So now I'm going into finals. I'm seeded second. The world record holders there. So I went from I want to win a medal to I want to win.
Yeah.
Want to beat this guy.
Yeah, sure.
And the excitement gets even greater at finals, as everyone knows. It's even peaking higher. There's, however many million people watching on TV. I'm excited. And I had a race plan, 19 strokes out, 21 back, and I executed it perfectly every time. Except I was a little excited this night. And when I went by 19th stroke and reached for that wall, I glided, an extra 3 feet.
Yeah.
During the glide, I went silver. I just made that one little mistake that was going to, make me miss.
All right.
Interestingly, when I went through that turn, I was a body and length and a half behind the guy that was winning, Fred. But I still thought I had a chance to win. And when I came off the pull out, he's body length and a half ahead of me. I just executed. And the thing about making mistakes, Brett, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but
that's what the podcast's for, man. We want you to talk.
The thing about making mistakes, I feel like this happens. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw things up. It's how you manage them in your preparation and how those you process them for you. So if you make a mistake and you let it get you down, or you quit trying because you screwed it up or whatever, you won't be prepared in the moment for when you make a mistake, because nobody's going to ever be exactly perfect.
Yeah.
You gotta allow yourself to move forward from a mistake and not let it affect you. So when that word silver went through my head, it didn't stay there. It's just what I said in that moment. That mistake, silver. And then I kept doing what I was supposed to do. 21 strokes, accelerating on the way back. And the last 25, that guy had gone out with everything he had, and he was swimming hard. And here I came, accelerating. When the finish touch came, he touched me out by 9/100ths of a second.
Dang.
And we were both faster than the existing world record that he had created that morning. So I missed the world record by 9/100ths of a second. He got that much faster than me right before I broke the existing one.
So that was the first time you went under 101?
Yeah, it was 007 to get
dang, that's a big drop.
Yeah. And coming into the meet, I was 101.6. So we had 3 months in preparation. These days it's like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 months in preparation. So I had a lot of good time to get better, to get stronger, to get smarter, to get more focused on that moment. So I used it, in a good way to apply it to that moment.
That's a baller, man. That's a baller. That's a guy that performs when he needs to.
Yeah, dropping a second in the Olympics as a 20-year-old, that's cool. I was happy with that. And people say, "Oh man, bummer, you got a silver medal. That must be a bummer." I'm like, I want you to analyze what you just said. I have a silver medal in the Olympics. Not a bummer.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep for like 24 hours. I'm just looking at this thing, it was an amazing, amazing experience. And luckily I had 5 days till the relay, because I needed every one of those days to recover it. So I put everything I had into that moment. And in the relay, so that was the first event in the Olympics. The relay was the last event of the Olympics for men's swimming.
Oh wow!
We got to do the first and the last, and I can't imagine doing it. I now prepare kids to do big lists like, what Caleb's doing or what Michael did. We use that as a model, like 18 swims in a 5-day period. Let's be ready. I was like 4 swims in a 5-day period. So right about where I want to be. And that's it. And I only had to do 3 because I made the relay at night, which was a really exciting relay. That year, the Russians were really good. Denis Pankrutov was the flyer. Alex Popov was the freestyler. They were good. And they were picked to win that medley relay. We had a pretty good relay, though, too. Jeff Rouse, backstroke, almost broke the world record on the way out. And the thing about going off of a lead off, I'm going second breaststroke, of course. off of a leadoff, and the announcer, there's 16,000 people over here yelling. And then there's an announcer going, he's going to break the world record. And I'm on this block that just keeps getting smaller and smaller as he gets closer. Like, okay, the only thing I got to do is not fall in. Like, it was an exciting moment. And I actually, I went 000 on that relay.
Dang.
I was almost the first guy under a minute. Now that's fairly commonplace, but I didn't have dolphin kicks or, swimsuits and stuff like that. We had
a 000 back then is flying down the pool. That's awesome. I love it.
And once we finished the breaststroke leg, and Mark Henderson had the opportunity to dive in for the fly, and Gary Hall Jr. brought us home. When Gary dove in, it was like we were all high-fiving like this. We're gonna get a gold medal. But not only did we get a gold medal, we broke the world record by 2.5 seconds, which is that one right behind me.
Nice.
My first world record. So pretty exciting moment to number one, to get to share it with those three guys, do it for your country on a relay. It's pretty cool. And I know you've been on some pretty special relays yourself. So you get the idea of what that's like.
Nothing like that, man. Nothing like that. But I'll tell you this: I'm doing a clinic with Gary Hall Jr. this weekend, so I'm pretty. I will for sure. I'm always excited to catch up with him. Good dude, just like you. So
one of the most unique perspectives on life, teaching. The sport of swimming. I learn something from him every time I get to spend time with him. So it'll be a really fun experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's a good man. Now, listen, the Jeremy Linn that I knew was a collegiate stud, but before I knew you, this was 97. Before that, you're an Olympic gold medalist. How do you not lose the plot then? How do you not just switch off and say, all right, I'm a gold medalist, I'm done, or, just rest and feel like you've accomplished everything you need to accomplish? Yeah. Just like I said, the guy that I knew was a stud in college.
Yeah. Interestingly, we also didn't have the benefit of like really good nutrition education and things like that. So longevity wasn't a thing for athletes our age as much as it is now, because they're doing a lot more things that are to keep them in the sport, whether it's taking care of their body better, from rehab standpoint or training standpoint, or taking care of their body better from a nutrition standpoint. Those things weren't necessarily in place for us like they are now. Longevity wasn't as big of a thing, but I'll tell you the confidence level that I gained moving forward into 1997 when I swam fairly well in the yards pool. Previous to me going 51.8 in the 100 breaststroke, the only guy that had ever been 52 was from 1984, a gentleman named Steve Lundquist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Lunk broke the American record in 84. He wasn't allowed to put his head under the surface, so a lot more powerful type swimmer. He was 52.7. And I went 51.86 in what was my junior year of college, and got to be the first guy to go 51 seconds. And I held that American record for 10 years. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, you did, man. Like I said, I remember being part of the Auburn team, which was really strong at the time. But if we had one fear, if we had one, if we knew anything, we knew that Jeremy Linn was going to win, and he was going to push his team to be as good as they could possibly be, and they were going to challenge us. And so, like, you were kind of the epicenter of the Tennessee team of like, how do we figure this guy out?
Yeah, we had other guys start winning races. My roommate won the 100 backstroke. It was an attitude and fortitude, and really honestly the commitment to winning was such a big deal. And it's not just an individual win anymore. We won a conference title at our own pool in 96. Believe it or not, it was the only year I wasn't rested for the conference meet because of Olympic trials coming up. But it was, and that about how a team can raise the level. And I think it's so important for anybody that coaches a program now on the club level or the collegiate level to understand how to eliminate the variables that are going to take you out of that high level of competition, whether it's a negative attitude, somebody that's not all in on the commitment for work, whatever it is, understanding what could be the thing that brings you down a notch or keeps you from allowing everybody to elevate to where that one person can take you or that group of people can take you.
Yeah.
Is important to understand. So creating an atmosphere for success is such a big deal. I know the word culture is thrown around. I think culture is a product of, a culture of excellence is a product of having an atmosphere that allows people to make choices to be excellent.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like you're saying, I mean, your team was very competitive, and we were very competitive. What were your thoughts on the Auburn team at the time? When we were coming and starting to be pretty successful. I mean, how did you approach that?
We certainly were not. We didn't approach it with fear. It would be like, you guys were the team with a target on your back because you were winning national titles. So we were lucky enough to go, that's who we're chasing. It was harder for you because you're like, that's who's chasing us. We have to do what it takes to stay on top. We were kind of chasing after you. It's just like being the current world record holder in a given event. You're looking into a black hole. There's no one you're chasing anymore. You are now the best.
Yeah.
And now you have to do what it takes to continue to be the best. And we knew that you guys might have been in a disadvantage based on that. Now, obviously you continued to win, so it was good. Obviously you figured out what it took to continue to be in that position. But I think somebody that's chasing has a little bit of an advantage when it comes to that. So being an underdog never concerned me or us. It actually is a position where I feel like is a position of power.
Yeah.
The person that is already the best, or the team that is already the best, has to find a way to continue to be that best, so they continue to do the things the way they've done them, but they also have to continue to get better, so we knew that, the team we were looking at from last year was going to be better. And that's the way we had to get better than what they were last year and get better than that, because that's where you were going to be.
Yeah, it seemed to me like you didn't take a backward step to anybody. Like you didn't fear anybody. In fact, it was almost like, this is my lane. This is my event. You gotta, I mean, it wasn't even like somebody was close to you, honestly. It was like you were just so dominant that, and it was like you carried this persona, like the way you walked around the deck. I mean, you were different. I mean, you must admit that. Like you were different. You were cut different. And so as a coach now, how would you coach Jeremy Linn back then? Like if you saw this guy come on the deck, how do you coach that guy?
Yeah, well, and interestingly, is one of the things we try and help each one of the individuals that's part of our program now is to gain confidence. And I was confident in what I was doing from moment to moment. And that's why I came off that way. I owned every moment, and I wanted people looking at me. I wanted people going, man, that guy's cut a little different. That guy, my pre-race routine, people ask me about that all the time. You have this strange pre-race routine. My vertical leap was 40 inches. Unless I brought my knees up beside my head and my feet, up by my shoulders, then it was more like 55 inches, which means I was jumping over somebody's head that was 6 feet tall.
Damn.
And I was able to do that behind the blocks. And imagine, and I've talked to friends like Jared Mars, once you jump over Jared's head, he's done. He can't race. He can't win the race. I just jump over my head.
So that's what it was. It was an intimidation thing, but it was also like, look at me as well.
Well, certainly, I had a kindness and respect for everybody.
Absolutely, yeah.
As well. I want to be clear on that. I wasn't
for sure.
I'm better than everybody. It was just a confidence in myself. And we try and help kids understand that, if they've worked hard and they've given 100% effort, that being confident is okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then allow your personality to be part of that confidence. Some folks aren't as, like me, like, I'm okay. I know I'm 6'5" and everybody sees me, and I'm going to give it a little strut when I'm walking down the pool. I'm okay with that too.
Sure.
Some folks are a little quieter in that concept, but we really promote finding your personality in your process, claiming ownership to it. So what you do behind the blocks, how you carry yourself through your warm up. When you walk on the deck at an international meet, there's someone over there that's jumping rope. There's someone over there that's doing yoga. There's everybody kind of owning their process. So I think it's important to help teach young swimmers that now. And we'll do, I remember when I was a younger coach, I would, the kids are all out on deck and I'm not. All of a sudden I come walking out of the locker room and I show them what it looked like to see me walk out on the deck, and they're all just watching. And then we talk about what was the effect that I gave them, what did they feel from that? And I tell them that was just me being me owning the moment. And that's how I did it. I think it's important to help everybody understand how they're going to own their own moment.
Yeah, I mean, you did that as well as anybody I'd ever seen. In terms of just owning your confidence and then letting that confidence display itself in your racing. And it's kind of like maximizing your talent. You have this talent and allowing it to be free and allowing it to express itself and doing what you can. Now, in terms of like, when did it come to an end for you? When did you realize it was the end of your swimming career?
So I trained from 96. I continued to swim on the national team, and I had some great travel experiences. I got to go all over the world, some on the national team, some off of the national team. I was one of the first athletes that was a sponsored swimmer for a swimwear company. I got to do all the great things that a professional swimmer gets to do for the next 4 years. I was done with the academics. I was now training at my college, and I'm a post grad. There wasn't a lot of that going on. So I kind of found myself in a position where, not many swimmers of 24 years old were continuing on with the sport at the time. I continued through to trials in 2000. I felt more mentally and physically prepared than I ever was. I ended up getting 9th in the morning at Olympic trials. And I was like, I guess that's it for me.
Oh, wow.
I knew I'd not left my best race in the pool. It just wasn't a great, like I said, I walked into finals the 4 years earlier and I was 6th, so making the finals was all that really mattered. You make the finals, then you go win the race.
Yeah.
And I just happened to not make the finals. So that I kind of had that be a marker for, okay, what do I do? Another 4 years of this and try again, or am I ready to kind of move forward with it? And I was proud of what I did. I knew swimming didn't define me as a person, and I was ready to kind of move forward with what was going to come next in my life. Little did I know at the time when I handed my coach my goggles and I said, that was good. I'm super okay with walking away right now. Little did I know that I'd be back on the deck within a year and on the deck for the next, and 21 years as a coach,
Was that a natural progression or did somebody pull you into that?
Yeah, so I was actually working in music management. So you've heard of Bonnaroo, right?
Yep.
I was working for the company of a guy that he about 3 months after I left, he started Bonnaroo. I was like, hey, wow. little heads up, I wouldn't have left to go swim coach if I knew you were going to start Bonnaroo. Just aside, it was an aside to, I ended up moving to the Florida Keys. I got word that they were building some pools down there, what is now the Founders Park in Islamorada and the Jacobs Aquatic Center in Key Largo. And they're pretty well-known training facilities for college teams, and just really beautiful place. I was like, yeah, I'll move to the Florida Keys and help you start some swim teams down there. So that's what I did. And for 3.5, 4 years, I was there and helped start the programs there with my Olympic team captain, John Olsen, who's still down there.
Mm.
And then Gary and his dad came down with the race club. So all those things kind of started to happen. But I was lucky enough to be the first guy on the ground there. I had actually talked John Olsen into coming down there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it kind of gave me the bug for teaching, because we were teaching from the very beginning of the sport. So we were teaching age groupers how to be better, like how to use a kickboard. So you had to start at the beginning. And I really like that concept for somebody that's been at an elite level. The elite stuff comes fairly easily.
Yeah.
I wanted to know how to teach from the beginning to the end. And so I started at the beginning. And you know, luckily, with my degree was psychology, having the ability to communicate well with somebody is a really big deal as far as teaching. So it was important for me to understand how to learn to communicate with, if I'm teaching an 80-year-old woman how to swim, it's different to communicate with her than it is a 4-year-old kid or a 5-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So there's the different levels of communication really came in application to teaching base level skills all the way through,
Me too, man. Yeah, my degree was in psychology, so I felt like it helped me a lot in terms of that as well. So
especially dealing with young adults, which is what I do now, and what you did so well as a swim coach, working with young adults, you've got to understand kind of how to manage psyche a little bit,
mm-hmm.
how to communicate the same message to two different people by saying two different things. You're going to get the final results the same thing, but if you understand that person, you can't say the same thing you said to Billy over here that you're going to say to Marge over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the draw to college? I mean, obviously, someone in your experience as an athlete, and then in coaching, the experience you've got, I'm sure your phone has been ringing off the hook the last 10 years. There's no doubt. So have you had a lot of interest of people trying to pull you into the college ranks?
I passed up quite a few awesome opportunities, whether it was the timing of life, with a wife and a kid, those things come into play. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it was, I had a commitment to seeing what I could do with this club team and create the excellence that we've been enjoying for the past few years from nothing. And I think that is something that's so special, and something that you can't really, I guess you could go to a lower level college and try and turn it into juggernaut, something that's really special.
Yeah.
But the great thing about doing it on the club level is you get to develop them from learn to swim all the way through the elite level, and you get to see that process happen and actually help people develop as the human beings that they are. It means so much to me. I feel like if we go back to my initial goal of giving back as much as I possibly can, I'm allowed to affect 280 kids a year as opposed to 30 to 40, college kids every 4 years.
What about your relationship between being a club coach and a college coach? You develop these kids and then you hand them off to the college coach, and then all of a sudden they blow up and the college coach gets all the credit. I mean, it's got to be tough though, right?
One of the great things is, ever since, same idea, the confidence that I had walking on a pool deck is the same kind of confidence I've always had talking to any coach.
Yeah.
So I never had a problem calling up any coach or reaching out to a coach. As the process, the college process, we graduate 20 high school seniors this year just for my arm of the program, all going to higher education. I think 16 of which will be swimming, or 17 of which will be swimming. So, making the proper connection for each one of those individuals is based on education, community, and swimming experience is a really big deal. Because a high school swimmer just wants to get the t-shirt and go to the big school, and that's not the experience that's going to work for them. So finding that connection, and we find that the communication with the college coaches in order to make sure, they know what they're getting. that we understand their expectations, and that it's going to be a proper fit for them is such a big deal. And certainly there's college coaches like Sergio.
Mm-hmm.
He and I are just really close, and we always have been. He likes the way I develop my athletes, and we have a great relationship based on that. And it's an ongoing conversation for their success.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
not every one of my best athletes is going to go swim for Sergio, but they're going to have that opportunity to talk with them and see if it's going to work out for them.
Yeah, I like that.
A great relationship between a club coach and a college coach can only help me be better.
Yeah, I agree. Good stuff. Now, what about the state of U.S. breaststroke? As a silver medalist, I mean, it's like you said, you stare at that medal forever. It's brilliant, but American backstroke has been completely dominant the last 20 years. Why is it that American breaststroke hasn't been as dominant?
Maybe because they're all swimming backstroke. I don't know. American breaststrokers that are out there right now, I think they're fantastic, and I think they'll have the ability to do it. Adam is a pretty tough guy to chase. If you look at the frame that he has, what is he, about 230 pounds?
He's a big dude. I know that.
Strong guy, and he's swimming a certain way.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily have personnel that's swimming that way or framed like that. And it just seems to be, at least on the speed side, not necessarily on the 200 side, faster to do it that way.
What do you think of how he's swimming? Like, I mean, the way that you used to swim and then the way he's swimming, the way he's swimming is completely different to most people, but he's doing things really well, obviously, to be swimming that fast and really pushing boundaries too, right?
It really allowed me to expand my thought process as to what will work for given individuals.
Sure.
Because breaststroke's one of those strokes that you kind of got to take the guy that's doing it and help them do what they're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily want to go, you have to do it my way. Because if I taught everybody to do it my way, 1 of 10 would do it well.
Right.
I want to do what you're doing better. And when I see somebody that has things that they do like him, for instance, the kick being, the kick was the driving force in my stroke, and it was very, very big and strong and powerful and long. And Adams is very different than that. It's a small range of motion. It's
very narrow and far and accelerated, right?
It has power and it's fat. It's very strong. It's a much quicker tempo and pop to it. It's a different way to imagine that kick. I was reaching up as high as I could possibly getting and trying to get as much water as I could and really letting that drive my lunge. And I think that it just kind of helps him stay on that balance of his line. And it does push water, but it's interesting to watch how that works. And now we see athletes, hey, you know what? This might work for you, and so watching videos of that or allowing them to say, hey, I don't have to increase the range of their kick as much as I thought I did, and allowing them to use it like that. It's been a good learning experience for me. So I think as we watch athletes go, it's a great learning experience. And I love, when you look at the breaststrokes right now and you have an up and coming age grouper, it's like, there's a window there. It's like the 200 fly for Americans right now. There's a window there. Let's see if we can walk through that window, or at least put ourselves in the conversation for being the one to walk through that window.
Are you looking at what Adam's doing and some other people now that are copying what he's doing? Can you apply that to age group swimming?
Yeah, and I think, when you get to work with some of the more developed physically kids, yes. So when you have an 18-year-old young man that's starting to be a lot more developed physically, you can start doing some of those things applicably to do it that way. It would not be, a base level teaching that we would use for our age groupers.
So the base level would still be count strokes, get length, hold as much water as you can.
we're going to always teach the less strokes, the faster you're going to be. Yeah.
Right.
So we're going for low counts and that's how we're going to develop you. If we find later on that rate is something that you can manage and hold, we'll use it. And it's obviously we're gonna give you the opportunity to try all those things as you evolve, but we're gonna put you base level, long, and counts. So we have, like, for each age group, this is the count that we're looking for this group of age as a base level distance per stroke. Somebody might be one over or one below, but you're trying to, for our coaches to know that's the number they're trying to develop their kids to.
Now, do you do speed and power training within your workouts, even for those kids?
For the young guys?
Yeah, I mean, let's say, somewhere between 13 to 16. Are you doing some speed and power at all or not?
Well, the center point of our training focus is going to continue with that age group to be aerobic, because they are aerobic sponges more than they are at any other time in their life, from the time they're 9 years old through the time that they're 17 years old. They can absorb aerobicism and take it forward into the rest of their career. So we want to make the basis for what we do aerobic. So that doesn't mean we're not going to teach them power drills, not necessarily using power equipment, but drills that'll help them create power, drills that'll help them create speed, hand speed, foot speed. So maybe you're doing vertical egg beater to create foot speed, or you're doing head up breaststroke with a freestyle kick to create hand speed. Things like that is a great way to develop speed and power without necessarily using tools. As we move forward, and we'll allow kids to use fins, hand paddles, things like that as they develop physically and mentally, and they're not going to do things that are going to injure them. And then as they continue to evolve, we don't use any power towers, power racks, or anything like that. We will use cords and chutes and things like that, but not to the detriment of our aerobic development.
Right. Now, in terms of aerobic development, I'm going to ask you that. No, I don't want to ask you about some drills, but in terms of aerobic development, what does that mean for breaststroke? How do you develop aerobically for breaststroke?
Sure. Have you ever done a 300 breaststroke where you don't have pull outs? You have to do flip turns and you take 3 strokes underwater, 3 strokes above water. If you're doing that, cycling that per length, that means you get 3 strokes per length. And say you do 3 400s that way. And that's for somebody that's pretty well developed in their knees and their hips and things like that, and their connective tissues, so that they can do that much breaststroke. So you do 3 400s that way, descend to as fast as you can possibly go on the last one. That's some pretty good aerobic development in a breaststroke set. And so that's just one way. Or say you're in a long course pool and you do 4 200s of, you're really working on developing the pull out and the breakout. So you do 1 pull out, 1 stroke, 1 pull out, 1 stroke, and you just continue that cycle for a 200. Get a nice long one and descend from there on time. So you're getting some great aerobic development, not necessarily just hitting stroke after stroke.
Right.
Find importance in finding that rhythm and that tempo with the strokes, but we look to develop things aerobically by having drills that help carry skills forward too.
Right. What about this? A lot of breaststrokers, sometimes they feel like their timing was out. What are some of the best drills you like to kind of re-engage the timing of the breaststroke?
Sure. The first thing that we find with timing is probably, one of 2 things. The way people think about the stroke, they think they pull first and kick second. Is that how you think about it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Flip your brain. What's the last thing you do after you do a pull out before you break out? You kick.
Yep.
Then swim. And lead with your kick. Kick, swim. All of a sudden, if you're doing that well, the timing is a lot easier to change. You can then work on getting your hands to that corner to bring your head through. Kick, finish, sweep to the corners, head breaks surface when you're at the corners, and all of a sudden you're starting to hit timing better and your kick's starting to work for you. And then The other thing that we find is really important to help with timing or help with, you see so many breaststrokers, Brett, and you'll see them at your camps, I'm sure, all the time. They just seem like they get stuck when they breathe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what we found, or what I've found over the years, and somebody asked me years ago, what was different about the way you swam breaststroke and everybody else? And I said, I breathe better. What does that mean? What it means is, think about, I'm going to ask you the question again. When you're inhaling and exhaling, which one do you like to focus on, inhale or exhale?
Inhale.
Yeah, you're wrong though. You should focus on the exhale. And that's what I would tell a kid. Flip it. Focus on the exhale. Focus on a long, smooth exhale. Generally, what happens if they get stuck on an inhale and they're missing their timing, or they're not being fluid through their stroke, they're purging their air right before they swim. So you'll see bubbles come up beside their face, and then they'll go, instead of having a long, smooth exhale, and they can grab that inhale. So timing that exhale where bubbles are coming out of your nose and mouth. My favorite guy to watch doing it and seeing him do it live, and I hope you've gotten to see Chase Kalish do his breaststroke live.
Many times, 4 years actually. He punished me for 4 years at Auburn.
Yeah, so smooth, and carries. You see bubbles rolling down his back.
Yeah,
going through that glide, because his timing of his breathing is so great. That's why it works for him. So he's a great example. Yeah, if you've seen him and he's not on your team, he punished you.
Yeah, he did. He did. Now, what's your thoughts on the dolphin kick now? I mean, you guys didn't really have dolphin kicking back then, and now they've brought it in, and it's kind of been exploited a little bit. What's your thoughts on it?
Sure. So if you're going to go 49 and 100 breast, you better have about 11 dolphin kicks. That's all. It's a big deal for carrying speed, keeping balance. I think that dolphin kick, I love it. If you're going to,
where do you put it in the pullout?
We teach both, because we want them to be armed with the tools to make the choice. It's about hitting the breakout and carrying speed and hitting the breakout for us.
Right.
You want to carry speed, get your body positioned through the breakout, or let's try it the other way. So if I were an athlete and I was doing it, I wasn't a great dolphin kicker, but I could sure open up a pull out, use my whole body, and snap through that dolphin kick. Some of them are much better dolphin kickers, so we ask them to try that dolphin kick first and then do their pull out. So we teach them both, and we ask them to use them both with a decision, like, I'm going to do this set this way, I'm going to do this set this way, and then we'll make that choice later based on what the watch is telling us what's going to work better for them.
I like it. Nice, man. I just want to leave you with this. I've kept you a while. In terms of predictions, who wins the 100 and 200 breast at U.S. Olympic trials for the men?
I want Andrew Wilson to win. Yeah,
Texas. Is he still at Texas?
And he started at a much smaller school, and he was his family is associated with our club based on his sister swam for us, so Tim Kelly has been a big part of his success, and so we have an affinity for him. I'd love to see him win that 100 breaststroke. I think there's a group of guys. Interestingly, what do you think will make the team in the 100 breast time wise?
I mean, it's got to be 58 something, doesn't it? It's got to be
trials.
Yeah, it's got to be these days. I mean, 59 low, you would think is putting yourself in a conversation, but you don't want to be in a conversation. You want to win the damn thing. You got to be 58 something.
I'd be preparing for sure to go 58 something. I think you break 59.3, you'll probably make first or second.
Yeah. I mean, 59 low is going to put you in a conversation, but that's not someone you want to be in the US. You want to be on that team. So you want to guarantee you better start swimming some 58s.
Yeah. And any of the other guys that are listening, I want you to win too.
Yeah. There's no, I mean, look, it's wide open. It's basically what you're saying. It's wide open. It could be anyone. I
think there's any one of 8 guys could be, could be in that conversation. And
could be someone from lane 2, man.
Yeah. If you're in lane 2, it could be you.
Could be you. Well, listen, man, I appreciate it. This has been awesome. Good catching up. Good catching up with your story and your swimming career and your coaching career. You're a good man. I hated competing against you. You're always it was pretty much a guaranteed win on your side if we were racing you. So, but I loved every second of it, man.
We'll have to see the story that of when I almost lost a toe at Auburn University. You remember the lane lines didn't used to have pool buoys on them, but the lane line would go into the gutter, just the lane line.
Yeah.
They have buoys on them now because at the dual meet, I kicked one of those lines and almost severed one of my toes off right before the 200 breast. They put a shot of cortisone in between my two toes and I swam the 200 breast and I got beat and everybody's like, we got him. And I was like,
I don't have toe, you muppets.
On those lines now because of me. So
I love it, man. Well, listen, Jeremy, I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for taking the time with this.
Absolutely, man. Great talking to you. Great catching up. And I'm sure we'll do it again soon.
We will. Take care, man. Bye.
Thanks.